All right. Welcome back to the podcast. We are Chris and Veronica, chrisandveronica.com. This is Chris and this is
Veronica.
Yeah. Welcome music. I don't know why we're doing welcome music, but we are.
I don't know why
this is
either.
for your spouse. That's the reason. Yeah, it's literally just for your spouse. That's the only reason we're doing it.
That's probably the only reason why we got the soundboard.
We did. That's the only reason the soundboard exists, and all those sounds exist. Pocket just went out to get Chinese food, so we're very excited. There's going to be Chinese food coming back, and then we're going to eat Chinese food and maybe cake.
Yes. Oh, that would be amazing. And not just beef cake, but cake.
Yeah. We're also unscripted right now, so you never know what's going to come out of our mouths, which is kind of fun.
Sure. You can ask some people, but you know what? They asked for this.
They did. Everybody asked for it.
Our friends were like, "You guys sound so dry, so with no personalities." Oh, you want personality?
You want personality? I'll show you personality. Yeah, we're going to talk about the Internet of Things. Yeah, technology. Ooh. Do you have favorite technology things?
Yes, and don't laugh at me. You got to promise.
Okay,
you got to pinky promise not to laugh at me.
Just so long as it's PG, please. Remember, this podcast is a PG, Veronica. Keep your mind out of the gutter.
So, well, it's
technology.
Always there.
We're talking about technology.
So, I did not know about Fathom until the startup week, the original startup week. Oh, I guess 2 years ago.
Sure.
So I attended one of the classes.
Fathom events?
Yes.
Where they do it in the theater?
No, Fathom.
Because what I'm thinking of when you say Fathom is like you go to the movie theater and there's Fathom events and they have like all of these like Star
Fathom
Wars, Star
joins
Trek, like
your Zoom meetings or all your meetings and automatically take notes.
Auto AI things where it's like an AI note taker.
Yes, that's
like
another
AI
one.
note takers.
Yes,
yeah.
and there's so
and
many
like
out
the
there.
Zoom ones and stuff.
Yes,
yeah. Do you know how amazing that is though? Let me tell you.
That was a game. I'm like, why do I not know about these things?
I should be doing this more often, like all of it.
Yes,
I want like an AI for just to walk around with me all day and take notes so I don't have to.
So, I cheat. I actually have my Otter AI.
Yeah.
And I upgraded
audio,
so I could
right?
so I could like, oh no, that's okay. I'm taking notes with my phone. Hope you don't mind.
Yeah. Ice cream versus whatever the other word is. There's a bunch of things where like they sound like things and it puts it in. And it's like, I didn't mean ice cream or whatever it is. Yeah.
I have to
I said that. I was screaming, like whatever that thing is. Yeah. But I think that in general, like the AI tools and stuff that are out right now are pretty cool. Like, with Zoom, Google, like all of those, Google Meets, Gemini. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And each of them are like a little bit different too. So like ChatGPT and all the options that they have inside of there. The ability to do like and this was a thing back in the day too, where you just like upload audio and then it turns to text or whatever. I remember like in the early 2090s.
Wasn't it like Dragon or something?
Dragon. There's a bunch of them. Yeah. But I remember like people had to like do steno notes and like record them. And then like you would hand it over to somebody and then they would like type out those words and turn it into a thing.
I was the person that, excuse me, sir, what did you mean? Well, what was this?
Yeah. And now, like, all I do is I literally just like talk into my phone for notes. So then I don't have to write them out. And if I write out notes, I talk them into my phone later. That way I can like revisit everything.
Oh, so what do you use for that one?
So no, that's just me. Like when I'm like actually writing.
For yourself. Okay.
Because like here's the other thing. I choose not to do digital pads for writing. I like the tactile of paper and pen kind of thing.
I do too.
When I'm writing, right? And there's some people that do like digital like things. What I found is that if I do that with clients, a lot of times they'll request a copy of it. And I'm like, I can't.
Doesn't it give you like when you're writing it, don't you get a transcript almost?
Right. But that's the thing. So like if I am, for example, out and about with somebody and I'm trying to like show them something that may be a new concept or a new idea to them and I'm writing it out, right? They can take a picture of it or something with their phone or whatever, like, and they're welcome to do that. But 99% of people don't ask for that. And my concern has been, and it's been like proven in the past for me, at least for the clients that I have.
Of course it has, but go
ahead. Where if they take that information and they look at it, they feel like they know it, but I'm explaining a concept to them that has a lot of different things to it. And so trying to get them to like not do that, like if I had a digital pad, they'd be like, could you email that to me? And all day long I would be emailing notes and everything else and all that.
Okay.
Like I don't need that administrative duty to like take that on. And then the notes don't really make sense to anybody but me because they're my notes, right? So it's, you know, it's not like you're in a class or whatever and like somebody else is taking notes for you because you're out sick or something. Like that's not the thing, because in a class you're already on a wavelength, you're already on a pathway, and it's a like factual thing like history or something like that. That's different than like you're at this point in your business and you need to be like over at this point like X to Y or whatever, right? And I need to get you there by doing these specific tactics, and this is why this is important, and then putting all those Venn diagrams together like in their mind. And a lot of times people will like assume that they're understanding everything that I'm saying when I'm actually leaving out almost 90% of it, because you can only cover so much in an hour or in a day or in a month.
I think it's a personality thing, because nobody wants to appear like they don't understand. I think that's a human thing. Nobody wants to feel like, oh my gosh, I'm sorry for asking so many questions. Those are usually,
I'm like, please ask questions all day.
The people that get told, man, you ask a lot of questions. Oh, how am I supposed to know? Or they get frustrated, right? I remember one time I had to ask a question 5 different times because I was asking something and they kept giving me a different answer. And I said, no, I must be saying the question incorrectly. No, this is what I mean. No, what I meant is this. And I kept having to change the words, and finally they just got so irritated with me.
So a lot of times I have language with clients where I'll tell them, if you want me to repeat something, ask me to say it in a different way for you.
Yes.
And in that sense, I can actually come at it from a different direction and be like, this is what it is over here. This is what it is over here. This is what it is from under here and above here and all of that. So in that sense, like anytime that you're trying to go through a concept with somebody and then show them how to be able to execute on that concept, definitely like ask all the ways that that can occur, because that's a great way to be able to learn.
One other thing that I found was when I was training my assistant or anyone that partners with me on something, I will start from, this is why I do this. Because if I teach you the process, then you'll be able to understand, look, well, wait a minute, why do you do this? Oh, because remember I said, you know, going back to step 1, they're like, oh, okay. Because you want for someone to tell you, hey, Chris, Veronica can't be here. You're going to be like, no, she said she was going to be here. You know, it's a process. People get to know you, your likes, your dislikes, your personality, and the same thing with that process.
Yeah, I remember when I was first starting out in some like different career paths and that kind of thing, I'd be like, I really need to understand the reasoning for this, because I don't understand why we're doing these tasks. I don't understand why this is important to the larger scale of things. And really, if we got rid of 90% of these, everything would still operate. So why is this important right now?
Because somebody doesn't want to change. And oh my gosh, I hate it when somebody would say, well, that's because we've always done it this way.
Right. Yeah. And yeah, there's that like that pushback on change. There's also like, there's an entire department that's over here that's based off of this stuff that you don't understand. And so like when you're first starting out, you're like, I don't understand why like everybody's getting on sales to be able to put their numbers in this thing. And it's because like marketing is like, right, because we just spent $4 million on advertising and I need to know if it's working or not. Like that's a total thing, right?
Yes.
And then salespeople are like, okay, well, I'm going to squish you the numbers and just kind of put them in because I'm not really sure what they are. And it takes up too much time because I need to be out on the road doing my thing, right? And it's that constant like sales versus marketing side of things that people don't really think about all that much, but it's like those types of things exist. I remember working with this executive team once, and they were an executive team where they were like, we're going to come to decisions together as a group and da-da-da. And I was like, no, you're not.
I know.
Like, that is not how any of that works.
This is not the Knights of the Round Table over here.
No, each of you are going to fight for your position. You're going to try and make sure that what you're trying to accomplish and support within your team, it needs to be able to bubble up. And at some point, there's a decision maker that is directly above all of you that is going to make that decision and live with that decision. And you're going to need to execute on it based on what they've said, because they have a larger view than what you have, right? I don't feel like there should be 400 layers in an organization, But I feel like anything greater than like an 8 to 12 person team or something like that is too many people for one person to manage, right? There are certain points where one person can manage, let's call it 400 people if it's an event, right? If you have an event and you have a bunch of security people or something like that, and there's 400 security people needed in order to get people into this event, one or two people can manage that entire process, but then you need to have supervisors for the individual spaces that are there, which means you're narrowing down the number of people that are there so that there's actual accountability to the people that are inside of that. And that's just in the like physical space side of things. But then you get into the opposite end of that where you're like, in some sort of like intellectual business, right? Or you're trying to support people in growing their business to that next level or whatever that. And there's different layers that need to be built into that so that you have direct view of how that thing is done. And that, like, anyway, I'm just rambling, I guess, at this point. But these are all things about things. We're unscripted.
Yes.
We're unscripted. Veronica, how do you handle that? I don't know.
No, there are some times that I have to say with certain clients, no, I need this. You hired me to help you. You need to do this thing and then I have to bring out the picture of when you do this, that gives me the numbers to do this, which in turn does this for you. And it goes around circle. And sometimes there are clients that I can tell, oh, here we go. It's that time. They're going to come back and ask, why do I have to keep doing this? Because they'll slack off.
Yeah.
And sometimes I just hate having to repeat it. Or perfect example with like the security, it's the processes and procedures. I love overlapping. If one person's shift starts at 9, the next person's shift should start around 11. But that first person, their shift shouldn't end until 12 because you need that handoff.
Yeah.
Most people don't realize, well, why would you do that? You need that handoff.
Yep. Yeah. It's why. So in the hotel industry, we typically had a midday that was 12 to 8. So we would have 3 to 7 or 7 a.m. till 3 p.m., 3 p.m. to 11 p.m. And we'd have one person that was noon to 8. So that that handoff naturally happens.
Yes.
And the 12 to 8 would be responsible for shift change notes.
Yes.
Because
I love that.
They're telling people on both sides, right? So you essentially triple it up. And then the turnover. So after the 11 p.m. going into the 7 a.m. shift, they have a little bit more time to be able to talk about that in the exchange where one's coming in 15 minutes early, the other one's staying 15 minutes late. They're changing over their tills and all that stuff. And so it gives them 30 minutes to change their tills, do their time card and like all of that and do the changeover notes for the entire day into the next day.
Which could be a lot in the service industry.
Yeah.
Or what would you call hospitality industry service?
Yeah. So we always so in the hotel industry, you're required to have a log. And that log is everything from behaviors or things that happened or things that went wrong or just like a running log, very much like
things that are out of normal. That just I was in billeting, which is a form of a hotel for military, and one of the things that they taught us was even if there's a fire alarm, even if there's a car alarm that went off, you jot everything down. This is why I get used to looking at the clock when something happens. I'll look at the clock because I'm so used to at 3:18. I heard blah blah blah.
Yeah, and it's the same thing for like bars and restaurant owners and things like that. If you have to 86 somebody, right? But you've known for the last 6 months that they've been working up to that. That workup point is like, okay, for the last 6 months, we recognize that on June, whatever day here, this person did this thing and we've marked it in the log. So you can go back to it and be like, hey, like we have this record that's here. And now everybody has like video cameras and stuff like that too inside of their businesses now.
Yeah, but nobody's going to go back to.
Yeah. But if you have the log where it's like there is no space in the log and there's no line that's skipped or anything, you can just be like, this is the history of it. This is what it looks like. And then if something major does happen, right, then you can be like, well, we have a history of what that is. And that's just for like protection of employees and like all of that too. So yeah. How did we get on this? I don't even know.
We're unscripted.
That's why. Yeah. But yeah, bars, like these are all things, right? Like how you run your business is so important. And just the things that you do within your business are so important. And it's those tasks of like, I don't understand why I should do that thing. Like, why should I write down this log? That is understandable. You can explain that to somebody pretty easily. But if you have like marketing and sales, like outcome-based things, this is another thing that's been on my mind is outcome-based things.
Ooh,
I
do
asked,
tell.
right? I asked somebody earlier this week, I was like, right, and what was the outcome of all of those things? And they were like, well, and let's call this like a very basic conversation about somebody put money into advertising and then it resulted in clicks or something, right? Like this is this mentality. And I was like, right, but what was the result? And they're like, clicks. And I was like, no, what
No.
was the result of those
You
clicks?
had more orders. Somebody
Right.
reserved your private room.
Right.
Yes.
Or did nothing happen in the business? If nothing happened, is it because there's somebody in a pipeline that's coming through? Like, how else are you going to measure it? What are those next things that you need to measure inside of your business? And so a lot of people are just like, put the money out there for advertising, and then like it hits it, and then you get the clicks, and they're like, okay, they came to the website, and I'm like, that's not a thing either.
No,
Like,
no.
what are your conversions? How are you tracking your conversions? How are you putting people into a pathway within your website or within your social media, or how are you doing that like outreach and like those types of things, you know, so that it actually results in something for your business, like that results based things that we should be doing every day, you know, like for example, I know that if I talk to 1,000 business owners, right, or you know, 1 in 250 roughly are going to be at $1 million or more in gross annual sales out of 250. So if I talk to 1,000 business owners, there's likely going to be 4 that are greater than $1 million in gross annual sales, right? So sometimes that number's higher, sometimes it's lower, but that's about what it is from the average person that you like run into out on the street and stuff. And so I know I need to talk to at least 4,000 to 8,000 people a year that are business owners in order to get them to the point that they need to be at to go from $1 million to greater than that. For anybody that's at less than $1 million, I have all sorts of things for them as well, you know? And so I have to have different types of things for people to engage with in those spaces, because the person that's at $1 million plus is at a different point than somebody that has an idea or a desire to be able to do something that they're passionate about, you know?
And plus, what they're looking for is different.
Yeah.
Period. I had 2 clients, and both of them happened to be in a meeting because it turned into oh, hey, how you doing? Come join us for drinks. And the second client said, hey, I really want to run that advertisement campaign that you had for so-and-so. And I said, that's not going to work for you.
Right.
They said, but
What do you
why? You
mean?
said it's going to. That's right. And I said,
Yeah.
well, they're targeted because their business is a service trade business.
Mhm.
What you do is totally different. And they couldn't grasp it because they sell an item. They're automatically thinking, well, I need sales. No, it's totally different.
Yeah, it's like service versus product are things.
Yes.
And then,
Yes.
you know, these are all different approaches that people need to be able to have. And they're like, you did this thing for that person over there. And I was like, you know, even in my own business, I only pick up certain people in certain geographies.
Thank you for picking me up.
Right? Like there's only certain people that I can pick up in certain geographies. There's others where it can work for everybody, right? There are agencies out there that specialize in plumbers, right? And there's people out there that specialize in electricians. And I can do that in multiple markets, and I can have multiple clients within the same market, but there's a certain point where I'm not going to have 500 of them in the same market. Like, you know, I know that for electricians, if I have 10 in the same market, great. Let's just take over the world with 10, right?
Yes.
But I can't do it with 500 because it wouldn't work for 500.
Yes.
You know, if I'm looking at them in different geographies or something, that's one thing. But there is, and these are just example numbers, right? There is a maximum scale where there isn't enough business for everybody, but in general there is, right? Like that's why there's multiple insurance agents everywhere. There's only so many clients that they can realistically take care of and give that like white glove service to, you know, and that's where you start to differentiate yourself a little bit from your competitors.
And also what you can do. One person their niche might be this versus this other person can do this, right? And also availability. I have one client that all their customers or client review says, I love that you picked up the phone.
Mm-hmm.
That is one thing. That's the thing.
Yeah.
You're the third person that I called, but no one else has called me back, or you're actually the first person that answered the phone.
Yeah. And I think about in just even like using the insurance agent space as like as another example. In insurance, right, there are people that are really good at P&C just for like homeowners and, people that have their personal car and like all that stuff. But then there's insurance agents that do underwriting of IPOs, right? That's completely different. Where you're looking at different types of things. And so I can't go to an insurance agent and be like, hey, can you look at this, nonprofit organization over here that wants to be able
Nonprofit world is a whole different beast.
Right? In insurance space. And so it takes special requirements of people to be able to understand that knowledge. Yes. It's just like somebody who has a commercial property or a commercial business versus somebody who has kind of like a home-based business, right? So these are all different types of like insurance things, and they all have different insurance requirements. And so in that space, there's a different type of knowledge and a different type of skill that's needed within each of them. And so what I look for, and this is that like 1 in 250 space again, I look for people that are very good at the thing that they do, right? Or they're on a pathway of knowledge to be able to become very good at what they do.
Do you define very good as far as sales, or do you define very good as far as having their foundation and knowing that, oh, they have everything, they have a plan? How do you define very good?
So in a lot of cases, for me, it's actually expertise and ability to be able to expand on that expertise as well. So somebody who has been in, let's call it P&C for this is, these are all terrible examples, but, somebody who's been in P&C for like 25 years or something, they're going to have an established book of some kind. And that is a different type of business than somebody who is saying, I'm in, commercial, property, right? If you're in commercial property and you're doing that, chances are you have a different set of skills and a different set of underwriting, and you're using other types of third parties and things to underwrite not only that, but the businesses that are within it. Key player type of insurance, key man, type of insurance plans and all of that. So Rico's telling us something. Apparently there's somebody outside, says Rico, the amazing Chihuahua. Yes, I know. So anyway, what were we talking about? I don't remember. Yeah, Rico started.
I said, what defines very good?
Very good. Okay.
But I think you kind of answered that.
Yeah. It's a little bit different for each person. And I've been doing this so long that I can usually recognize it from the go.
You don't look over 30.
Oh, thank you. Oh my goodness. You're so kind.
I try very hard.
It's because I shave every day. Otherwise my beard would be completely white.
Yes.
Veronica,
I was so surprised. I'm like, you haven't, how many days have you not shaved?
I was like a day and a half, 2 days. I hadn't shaved. 2 days.
It was 2 days. I'm like, oh, you have all that? Yes. Yeah. You thought he was, yes. You hadn't like for like 5 days. A little lady. Yes.
Yeah. I was like a blue-haired biddy just because like my beard is like pretty much all white and gray. And so it's part of the, like, if I shave every day, it's like, oh, you're like a baby face kid or whatever. But if I let it grow out, people are like, oh, how old are you? You know, looks like you've been chain smoking out there behind the bar for 45 years. You know,
no,
yeah,
no,
not
never the chain smoking.
Never that.
No.
Okay, yeah,
no,
never.
I mean, that's not a thing. Dramatic much.
Right, like the bartender down at, what's it called? Harbor Lights. You know Harbor Lights down there? I love that place. They've got the happy hour where you go in and it's like, 3 to 5 or something like that.
Hour.
Yeah, 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. or something. Midweek, you can go in and they have this like pick 'em 3 meal.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's pretty fun.
I like those.
Like, we should do one of those one of these days.
Yes, we should. Yes.
And just go sit down on the waterfront and chit chat with like all the like blue haired biddies and be like, I know, sciatica. It's a thing. Like,
okay, are we over with time? There's a time.
Sure. Okay, yeah, it is time. Great, yeah. Well, thanks for listening. This is the Chris and Veronica Show. My name is Chris, and this is
Veronica.
Find us at chrisandveronica.com. All the socials, the Chris and Veronica Show. We're on YouTube. We are on Spotify. Yeah, thanks for joining us today, and have an amazing day. Bye.
Have a good evening.